Hello and welcome back once again to Belmont Bunch. This is week 4.
Sure.
This is week 4. Actually, we're going to talk more generally this week since we're close to the quarter mark. We're not quite on the quarter mark, but obviously with game cancellations and everything, that's been hard to get everybody to. Anyway, first, let's hear from James.
It feels sucky. Like, it feels like that's the word I want to use. Like, it feels like I'm sure a lot of people had very high hopes. I know I did. And so we've lost a lot of like heart-wrenching games where either we lost by a lot or it was close. Like, we had the 2 overtime losses from Philly, that was against Philly.
Yeah.
The 2 capital games where we lost one and with 30 seconds to go, and the other one I think we got shut out, right? I don't even remember.
The other one was the one we were up 3-0.
Oh yeah,
we got shut out
that's
from
probably
there.
Worse. That's probably worse. I keep on forgetting. Maybe that's a good thing if I keep on forgetting. And
yes.
so there was like beginning was like whatever, when we were trying to trading some wins and losses. Then we had a bunch of losses that some were close, but this past week we were able to defeat who was it? Pittsburgh first, and then the Rangers. Yes, the Rangers. That was a satisfying game.
Yeah.
But the last thing I'm going to say is that for the general thoughts for the whole overall season, it seems like there's something we're not locking down our game. Like sometimes the Islanders are playing the game that you want them, like that you'd expect. Like they're playing defensively very well, and then kind of like doing enough offense.
Yeah.
Some like when you see that happen, it's like you get a good feeling. You're watching the game, everything seems like it's going well. But then sometimes it's just like the game is like frantic, and it just like almost seems like sometimes the players are like just skating right into the other team zone, and then on both sides, like the defense is almost like a very frantic game style sometimes. Okay. That would be that's my general thoughts.
Well, I think I would agree. I think the last couple games, Pittsburgh and the Rangers were more frantic than we're used to.
Yeah.
I think when the Islanders, like kind of like you said, when they're like locked down and when like they have all the facets of their game going, it doesn't always equal. Actually, it very rarely equals the most entertaining hockey to like a neutral observer. Because for the Islanders, when they're at their best, they're defending incredibly well. They're not giving up a lot of high danger chances, which is also known as excitement by some people. And the Islanders are not creating a ton, but they're getting enough. So they're winning games like 2-1, 3-2. 3-2 is a little bit extravagant for us. 2-1 and 1-0.
3-2 is extravagant for if we were playing exactly how we wanted to.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But like you said, this year has been an adventure in areas because it feels like we had maybe a couple, the first game of the year couldn't have gone better. And then it immediately goes back, and it's been very back and forth. We right now, do you want to try to take a guess at what our goals per game is?
Oh, I never thought about that. I'm going to say like 3.5.
It is 2.27.
Oh, wow.
It is very bad. Well. It is the worst in the division by a significant margin. Wow. And of course, because I was being very careful with this, we haven't had to worry about it for our stats, but ESPN and NHL, their stats are a little bit different, their websites. NHL has a section where you can look at the goals, and the goals for do not count the shootout goal win. So the way I was explaining it with James earlier was like, you win a game, you go to the shootout tied at 2, and even if you win the shootout 2-0, you didn't win the game 4-2. You won it 3-2. You get awarded the goal that won the game. And that doesn't count because that's not a goal at 5-on-5. That's not a goal from the run of play. That's just a goal to show that you won the game. So taking those out actually affects teams' goals for per game and goals against per game. Luckily for us, we haven't had to worry because we haven't played in a shootout yet. So that didn't affect us. We're averaging 2.27 goals for per game, which is horrible. It is, I think, the second worst in hockey. I think Anaheim's at like 1.85, which is unbelievable. And wow. Anaheim's currently...
That's impressively bad.
Anaheim's record is like almost identical to us. So
wow, that's impressively bad.
Yes. So they're relying a lot on goaltending, at least in our perspective. I think even though we've had to rely on goaltending at points,
I would argue, just off the top of my head, the Pittsburgh and the Rangers game. We
Yeah,
definitely rely heavy on Varley.
Rangers game, it's funny because we get a shutout, and I think you could say, oh man, it feels good to get back on track defensively. But how, there were a couple breakaways that you allow
way too many
off of very preventable situations where the defenseman just kind of fell asleep for a second, and all of a sudden Panarin's in alone.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like that lends itself to the frantic play, because it's like sometimes you'll see Mayfield or one of the defensemen like make an amazing defensive play, like get their stick in the exact perfect position to intercept a pass or poke check somebody or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wow, like that could have been really bad, right? But then like the next time the other team has the puck, it's like they just skate right into the zone past the defenseman.
Yeah. So
like, what happened? Why
zone entries are a thing that we are challenged by.
Yeah.
And you notice this on the power plays. We struggle to get the puck in the zone, even up a man. So that's pretty bad. I think Barzal is our only hope in like getting into the zone just through stick handling. Otherwise, we have to dump and chase because we are a heavy team. We're not a fast team. So maybe, dump and chase is the way we need to go more often. Doesn't equal very sexy hockey, though.
All right. So then if that's it for general thoughts, I don't want to cut you off. Anything else you just want to mention?
No, I guess the only thing that would surprise me very thoroughly is that our power play is at 17.5%, which is acceptable. And it feels like it's been worse, but it's acceptable. And in a season without fans where home ice doesn't feel like it matters, the Islanders are 3-0-0 at home and 2-4-2 on the road. So for some reason, home ice still matters even with no fans.
Yeah, that is interesting. But okay, so then who's the most surprising and most disappointing player so far? Players, if it's more than one.
Yeah, most surprising for me. I guess that's difficult. Because I guess Noah Dobson. Even though Barry did some PR for Noah early in the year. Well, not because Noah didn't deserve it, but like he was like, I think he's a John Carlson type, top, like a great puck moving defenseman. And I was like, listen, last year he was fine, but wow, you're lathering some praise on this guy. And then he starts the year and he actually kind of, he had the one really bad Ranger game. And that obviously was a glaring thing because he like was the direct, fault for two of the goals. But he has been really, really good. He's as smooth a skater as Barry suggested. And he has made up for Taves offensively to a point that until recently, I think he had fully made up for Taves. Now, recently, Dobson hasn't been getting as much playing time, which is a little bit weird for a guy that I thought had dealt well with the added playing time that he wasn't getting last year that he's getting this year. But yeah, Noah Dobson has been a steady force on the power play and 5-on-5.
Okay. Anybody that's disappointing?
Well,
or is that kind of both? Now that I think about it, was Dobson both surprising and disappointing?
No, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed by Dobson.
Okay.
I would say I am going to be patient with him because he's so young.
Yeah. How old is he? What is he, like 22?
I want to say he's 21.
Oh my God.
So
young.
Considering that, he has dealt pretty well this year. And also, if you're going to say that he had, the second game of the year was horrible, then I guess you'd have to say he's had a pretty good response to that, which is a pretty mature thing to be able to, get back on the ice and not let those things, collide in on each other. And like, there's a big mental maturity aspect to him being able to get back on the horse after having a really embarrassing game and not really having another game like that since.
So, okay. So then, I would say for surprising, just like some things about some players that are surprising. So one, Barzal has not been giving away the puck away in the offensive zone as much. Okay. And a lot less in our own zone. So I think
he's making up for that with penalties.
That's true. Yeah, that is fair. Mayfield has also not been taking penalties. That was a thing last season. He did a lot in the regular season.
Yeah.
But in the playoffs, he was really good as far as I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
So like I guess he had worked that out by that point, So this year he's still, I don't think he's been in the penalty box at all, has he?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I haven't had a penalty that he committed yet that I've been like, I'm angry at you now.
Yeah. So I thought that was great. And then I guess surprising, this is somebody you could talk a little bit more about, but like Michael Dowcole has been, like
he gave a little
doing
bit of
a
a
lot
boost on
better
that second line.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, he.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll let you go. I'll let you
He.
go.
Okay. All right. He had the best game of his career in that Pittsburgh game. He had 2 assists. He slotted in. Beauvillier. We're still waiting, and Beauvillier is not going to play tomorrow either. He might have a shot at playing
Tomorrow
against
against who are we
Boston.
playing on Thursday? Which is
Pittsburgh.
today. Pittsburgh. So we're playing
Yes.
Pittsburgh today when this
Yeah.
video comes out.
Yeah. So he'll still be possibly on that second line. And in that Pittsburgh game, it felt like we had maybe found something. And the way that I've been looking at Dowkel is best case scenario. He can meet maybe, I was being very, very optimistic because, also we're searching desperately for offense, and he gets 2 assists and he looks really good. And it sometimes, a player takes a long time. I thought of Josh Bailey immediately when it came to Dowkel. And I think, one game is, I got carried away by one game being like, maybe he just found that line he needs to be on. And then the next game he was kind of invisible again. But yeah, it was nice to get a little boost from him. Unfortunately, it does seem like he's kind of gone back to his usual, kind of, I don't feel like he does anything horribly, but he also just doesn't do anything that will win you a game normally.
Well, I guess hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully we'll see. Like, I'm fine with seeing him on the ice, So I'm fine. I like all the players. I like all the players.
I didn't pay this.
Yeah. But then the only person that I was thinking of that was like the slightest bit disappointing. I'm hoping that their season will pick up is Brock Nelson.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, which I think we talked about a little bit before. So, like he's a little bit less not as fast. I don't know, like not like putting himself in the same good positioning I feel like he was great at last season. So I don't know, maybe he'll like kind of heat up a little bit, but I don't know.
They're gonna need him too. He
Yes.
led the team in goals last year. They're gonna need, and the good thing is, and maybe a secondary most surprising, even though he can't surprise you too much, Barzal has developed a shot.
Yeah.
Guess what? That's essential right now, because that first line is the only line really doing a lot offensively. And for him to take matters into his own hands is good. We need that because sometimes his line mates can't keep up with him. So far this year's line mates have been great. I think like 5 games into the season, they made up like 95% of the offense.
That's crazy. Yeah, because I would say Lee has been better than what I remember last season. It could just be because he's like refreshed, so
he's hustling. And I think it's easy to hark on how, he's not the fastest skater. He's not the most skilled shooter.
But he's got a big ass and a big chin. And he will get in the way of the goalie.
Yes, he creates net front havoc, which is huge. And on top of that, he has been hustling. He's been working. I don't think you can accuse him of not working hard. He's been in his office, and he has been very good to start the year.
Yeah, and then so kind of segueing then into the Pittsburgh and Rangers game that happened this past week because we didn't have the Buffalo game, the 2 Buffalo games. Just so I want to talk about those games, but one thing about those games, I think it was the Pittsburgh game on one of our power plays.
Yeah,
we were doing the regular thing in our power play, which was trying to wear down the the team in the offensive zone, and it actually worked, which was surprising.
Was this on the? I think it's on the game-winning goal.
I don't remember. But it was just like we actually wore him down, like we were in the zone for like most of the power, like for about a full minute, like right into the power play. It actually paid off, and I was like, I couldn't believe it. I'm so like not used to. I'm just so used to seeing the Islanders in the zone for so long, wearing the other team down, and then
the other team gets the puck and clears it.
Yeah, exactly. So, hopefully that's. I know it's only a data point of 1, and maybe it's just because I noticed it versus it might happen more often. But yeah. So, what was then your general thoughts about the Pittsburgh and Rangers game?
I pretty much gonna echo, I think, what Barry was saying, that both games, the Islanders made a lot of mistakes. And those mistakes were able to be mitigated by good goaltending. And in the Pittsburgh game, good offense, which we desperately needed some of. The Pittsburgh game, we made a lot of mistakes that led directly to goals. We had a missed assignment on the third Pittsburgh goal that put them ahead in the beginning of the third period. A rare Casey Cizikas big defensive error where he left Jake Gensel too early. He was anticipating a pass back to the point, and it's Sidney Crosby passing the puck. You give too much room, and guess what? He slides a puck through to Gensel in the middle of the slot, and Varley has no shot at it. Sorry, I had a stroke. And another goal that was really bad, traveling back to the second period, was just a few seconds left. You're up 2-1. You've played a generally okay-ish period. And Scott Mayfield is skating backwards in his own zone. So obviously no forward momentum. He's got a guy coming in to forecheck him. I think the smart thing in this circumstance, because there's only a few seconds left, is to just loop one up into the air, kill the clock. And he tried to play it to Brock Nelson. He just tried to pass it to him. Brock Nelson had a guy on him. So Brock Nelson gets stripped, but through no fault of really his own, because I don't think he was expecting the pass. And also it was what we would call in hockey, soccer. It's what we would call in soccer a hospital pass, which is a pass where the recipient is the one that gets hurt by the person that passed it, putting them in a bad position. And so the puck gets given away, turns into a 2-on-1 the other way, and Malkin scores in a period where
you need some rest.
I do.
You're mixing up the word.
Yeah. But that was a period also where Pittsburgh didn't really create much offense, and then you just hand them a goal, and it's like, what have you done? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Overall, do you think we've seen a lot of that? A lot of just bad decisions in the defensive zone?
Yeah, I would say, because carrying it over to the Ranger game, we didn't give up any goals, but we had two different breakaway, straight up breakaways, not 2-on-1, 3-on-2. Straight up, Artemi Panarin got to have a breakaway because of a bad pinch by, I think it was Pollock. And it was a good angled pass off the boards, but there's no defensive depth. It felt like all the Islanders were on the blue line, and it's well, that just means one pass could beat all of you, and it did. And Varley made a great stop. Varley made a similar stop, I think on Chris Kreider on a little power move towards the net. So I think it would be incorrect to say that the Islanders defense got the shutout in that game, and more so that Semyon Varlamov was up to the task on some plays where the Islanders defense put him in a bad spot. And that game could have gone either way. That game was 0-0, 52 minutes in, and our fourth line had its best game of the year. And that's essential. That is, if the Islanders want to be good, guess what? It's going to require the fourth line and the second line to really get going. The third line, is kind of a mystery at the moment, but the fourth line needs to set the tone by tiring the other team out. And it doesn't look like the Islanders' fourth line has had that physicality that they had last year.
Do you think that
areas?
Do you think that they might be trying to, or it might have been trying to be a little fancy, the fourth line? Maybe we don't have to be as physical, Maybe we could score some goals too.
Maybe. I know Matt Martin had a pretty productive offensive playoff run. Mm-hmm. I think he had 5 goals. But I think it's more so, I think they were just lethargic in a way. Mm-hmm. They weren't really getting on guys in the way they usually do. And their job is to hem the other team in their zone, force them to tire out and not be able to play their best guys, because maybe you've tired out their top line, and now our top line's coming out against not one of their better lines, and it creates creates matchups throughout the game. And that fourth line for a while just didn't seem to have it. They're getting a little bit older, so it could be an age thing. It could be they played a long playoff run and had a short off season type thing. I definitely think that not having a preseason, there's a lot of things that probably.
I think about that a lot.
Things.
That's why I think a lot of teams, from what I could tell, but definitely the Islanders, it seems like they're still kind of working out the exactly how the new players fit in. Dobson, Sorokin, and even though Wallstrom's been pretty good, stuff like that. Like a lot of there's still it's not like perfect yet. And I think so. I think that will lead us right into our last section. So
I have one thing.
Oh, God, the worst.
Sorry.
All right, what's up?
I think that
all you want to talk about is the Islanders. Oh my God.
I think what you just said, like getting new players involved. I thought that the Islanders were going to be ahead of the curve because we didn't have that many new players. So that's why I think maybe the early part of the season somewhat struggling. We're in a playoff spot now, but it's been an adventure. I think it's a little bit troubling because we thought that we had so much continuity that things would be smoother. Maybe the first 11 games were kind of like their preseason and they were getting into the swing of things.
That's how I was thinking about it, but I was thinking
if that's true, we ended it still in a playoff spot. They have to pick it up, but if they're able to hold on to a playoff spot, I mean, they do need to get better. They definitely need to get better because 2.27 goals per game is not going to do a lot, but at least their defense is close to where I want it. It's not quite there, but the goaltending, it's just more so Sorokin needs to be a little bit more consistent. But man, Varlamov's been so good.
He's been. I am just worried though, because we relied on him for the Rangers game, and it's like I don't think anybody can be that consistently good. You know what I mean?
It's tough. He's putting it to the test. He's got 3 shutouts in a very short period of time.
What worries me is that happened with. I don't know if he got the shutouts, but Greiss was amazing in the beginning of last season, and then he just had a couple bad games. So, still a really good goalie by by far and away, but we just couldn't rely on him. Like the way we needed him, or the way that we had been using him, because we were kind of using him at some points.
We don't want to tire out goalies because we depend on them a little bit.
A little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So then, all right. So then expectations. Then you kind of just touched on it, but just towards, let's say by the halfway mark, and then towards the end of the season, if you had to take a guess.
Yeah. I think a big part of this is, and I put this up on my whiteboard in the basement earlier today. I'm going to pull it up. I took a picture of it on my phone, and I was looking at, so I have every team's goals for, goals against per game, power play, and penalty kill in our division. And our special teams have been all right. The goals per game were so far behind everyone. Our defense is the second best. Boston taking out the shootout goal, like I said earlier, Boston's been incredible defensively. And that makes sense. Our one game was 1-0. That is on brand for both teams. But it is 2.2. If the Islanders finish the season around where they are in goals per game now, they will not make the playoffs. I think in a shortened season, what we're seeing is not what you would normally see, which is, I think usually defense wins in hockey come playoff time. And the regular season, it pays to be a little bit more balanced. You need that offense to, buoy you at points. And the Islanders offense is not going to buoy them ever. It's always going to have to be on the defense and the goaltending. And I'm looking at the other teams in the division, like the goals per game. Capitals 3.58. So a goal and 1.3 goals ahead of us. That's a lot per game. The Flyers are 3.54. So there are some high scoring teams. The one thing that makes me feel not as bad looking into the future is the Flyers and the Capitals, who are both ahead of us and have swept us each. They do not defend well. And I wonder if that will become a problem as the season goes on. The Flyers penalty kill is 70.5%. That's really bad. And they're not getting great goaltending at the moment. And they're allowing 3.07 goals per game, which is a little bit high. Capitals are giving up 3.58 goals per game. That is a lot. They lost 7-4 to the Flyers the other day in a game where they were up 2-0 and then 3-1. So I think the hope for the Islanders is stay the course defensively, go out and get somebody offensively. If you don't trust Bellows and Wallstrom, then go out and get someone, because I do think a playoff spot is to be had. If I see flaws in the Flyers and the Capitals, then that means, we could still fight for decent playoff positioning. And I really think Pittsburgh's really bad. I think the Devils are scrappy, but I don't know if they're going to hang around all year. I don't think the Sabres are very good. And I think the Rangers are okay-ish. So, there's been a lot of talk about this being the best division in hockey, but I see flaws in pretty much every team except for Boston.
And the Islanders.
Well, so it is attainable. It's there for the Islanders. The offense needs to be improved. We need a scoring winger. And I wouldn't be against trading Josh Bailey if you could.
Wow.
Although I don't think they will, and I don't think a team will take him as he's playing currently. So maybe one big shakeup is needed. And I do think, though, even though I spoke very positively about other teams having big flaws, the Capitals and Flyers can sometimes score themselves out of flaws. We cannot score ourselves out of. We can
have a goalie that,
prevents us. But if we depend too hard on Varley, and then he struggles, and then Sorokin still has his growing pains, the Islanders could be. There's such a wide variance on where I could see the Islanders finishing anywhere from 2nd to 8th in this division, because it basically comes down to, will Varley hold up, and will they ever get any more scoring? And for now, I will say I think they can just squeak in. And then the funny thing with the Islanders is I think they're a better playoff team than they are a regular season team. They'll probably be good come playoff time. Like, they're a tough team to beat 4 out of 7 with their defense and goaltending. But in the regular season, teams, I don't know, like teams seem to score more in the regular season. Thus, we're lagging behind in that area. I'm still trying to figure out how we're going to improve on 2.27 goals per game when our first line has been genuinely pretty good. And it just looks like we have no depth outside of that. And that's an issue that we came into the season. Well, not exactly, because we thought the second line would be good, to what you said about Brock being disappointing. Bailey and Brock have been incredibly disappointing.
He's been invisible. Where has he been?
And Bo's been hurt. So that whole second line, I mean, you can hope that they turn it around, but guess what? You can also acquire someone, Lou. Please.
But
we don't need old grinders anymore. We need
it would be great if we had a second Leo Komarov. That's what this team needs. But
we have 4 of him.
All right. So I think that's it. If you're interested in getting involved, please drop us a line.
I genuinely thought you were thanking me.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for, and I was like,
for showing
is he going to say being on the show?